This is Talk is Sheep, a podcast by the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Come along as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
All right, so episode 71. This is a cool one. T-Bone Travis Turner. I could see you. You're like a little kid in a candy shop. You're,
I
you're pretty excited.
I fanboyed. I followed this guy since MySpace. Like, big fan of him for years, and finally getting a chance to, instead of just interacting on social media and getting messages and text messages back and forth and phone calls, to actually have a face-to-face conversation was kind of awesome. Such a solid dude. Really enjoyed it.
I can see why, right? He's so humble. He's a gentleman. His smile's infectious. Hardcore hunter, and his messaging, man. Like, I loved what he was talking about, our hunter heritage, and how we got to stick by each other, right? Like, it's such a great message.
Oh yeah, like he digs into it a little bit near the end, talking about Second Amendment and hunter heritage rights and all that, and it just shows that we're having the same battle up here in BC as they're having in Alberta and in Ontario and Quebec and down throughout the States, right? It's about hunters needing to come together to stick up for what we believe in and what's best for wildlife, right? It's sad that we're at this point. However, just shows we're a bigger team than we realized.
Yeah, it was very, very good points that T-Bone brings up. A cool podcast with him. Talk a little bit about where his ethos comes from. How he grew up, where he came from, his passion for archery, his passion for the outdoors, and then he talks about his battle that he's just gone through with cancer and losing his leg and stuff. So that's a great life story there. It's sad that he's had to go through it, but just the resilience that he displays, right? He's such a strong and positive guy, right?
I thought it was pretty cool how he let out a little bit more than he's let out publicly before. As he said to us, he goes, "I'm going to let you guys know a little bit more that I haven't told too many people." So I thought that was pretty cool. It shows the trust in the conversation we were having and the friendship that we developed this quickly. So it's some encouraging news for those that are going to listen. So he's just, I can't say it enough, such a positive and strong guy, and it's inspiring. It really is.
Yeah, and anyone for a trigger, listen up. There's a pretty cool recipe in there too. So
I saw you write it down.
I did, but I didn't get it all. I'm gonna have to bug him. Yeah. When you reach out to him, just ask him to send me that recipe, because I wrote it down, but there's a couple pieces that are missing. Anyway, great chat with T-Bone. On the housekeeping side, a couple things to highlight. We got our Doll Sheep raffle on our Wild Sheep raffles. Get over there. 1 in 750 chance to go kill a massive Doll Sheep in the Yukon with Kusawa Lake Outfitters. Mac Watson is the outfitter there, does a fantastic job. He's recently taken over that concession to kill some amazing rams, and Mac's just a great guy and very supportive conservationist. So great opportunity to go to hunt Doll Sheep. So those tickets are still for sale if anyone's interested, and we're going to draw that in August at the Jurassic Classic. So pretty cool.
If there's one draw, like every time I buy a raffle ticket, I'm like, you need to draw me on this. If there's one you really need to draw me on, it's this one. I've always wanted a doll. Like cheaper next level, but since I started hunting, the number one for me was a doll. So
yeah, I can understand why. Yeah,
you've got one though, don't you?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I got a BC draw and was lucky to harvest one. Very lucky to harvest one because, lucky for sure. Amazing. So they're so beautiful. I have it above my fireplace, and it's just like, my wife is not super keen on a ton of mounts. She's not against them or whatever, but she's like, no, like she likes her. She's got a very classic and simple and taxidermy does not fit that narrative, but my Doll Sheep is in our main room. It's stunning. It sits over the fireplace, and just they're so amazing. They're beautiful. And I agree with you. The doll is amazing, and
yeah. So just draw me on that. Like, if you don't do anything else for me, just draw me on that one.
Yeah, just to be clear, we don't have control over that. So I don't want anyone thinking that we pull favorites or can pull favorites. But
it's all computer done. So just for luck, right?
Yeah,
just think of me
sure.
when you hit that button, or Joe hits that button, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then we also have a membership drive going on right now. We got a ton of giveaways, like a couple grand in prizes. We've got a sturgeon fishing trip on the Fraser River, a ton of cool stuff. This was brought to us by Wood Wheaton Super Center. Don and the team over there supporting us on this membership drive. So thanks to Wood Wheaton for stepping up on that. And if you're thinking about joining the society, or you think you might want to upgrade, there's never been a better time. This is a huge prize package for our members. We got 3 prizes that we're giving away, and so go over to our website, wildsheepsociety.com, get signed up. I would love to have you join us. And again, we'll be drawing that winner in August as well. So, okay, so episode 71 with Travis T-Bone Turner. This is a great listen. Great guy. Love to hear your feedback. Again, likes and shares helps us out. And if you want to see anyone specifically on the show, let us know. So, episode 71, T-Bone.
Across Canada and throughout the world, if you come across a campfire in the woods, on a mountaintop, or next to a river, you'll find warm company and friendly people gathered around. Regardless of your lifestyle or place you call home, we invite you to learn more about what it means to be a hunter in the modern era. If you love the outdoors, care about where your food comes from, and are concerned for the future of wildlife and the environments that they need to survive, pull up a seat. We have a story to tell. Welcome to our campfire.
Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, for you, T-Bone. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm totally pumped about this.
Very cool. So it looks like you're sitting on your deck there. It looks nice. We're a little envious here. Where are you sitting right now?
Yeah, I'm on my. We got a big back porch here, and it's it's a typical redneck back porch. You got a refrigerator, you got a cornhole game, and you got a Traeger grill, and you've got a cabinet system because you're running out of storage in the house. So, hey, and then you got the lights up there too. Let's not forget about the lights right up there. Yep, you got the old trailer park lights. So this is my back porch for sure.
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. You're doing it right.
The weather's so nice. I mean, it's today it's supposed to be 72. It's a little cloudy. It's supposed to rain late this afternoon, but I thought, man, it's been kind of gloomy and cold for the last 6 or 7, 8 days. So I said, I'm gonna sit outside a little bit. I said, I don't think nobody on this podcast would be upset about hearing some birds chirping and stuff. Spring weather.
That's awesome. Well done. Living the dream, doing it right. Good for you. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, T-Bone. And I guess maybe, for our listeners, that maybe don't know enough about you, let's talk a little about you and who you are and maybe a little bit about the show. Like just give us a high level overview of who T-Bone is.
Yeah. Started archery, just like so many other folks, you started hunting and fishing and, had that influence with my dad, my uncles, and our, family friends and such. So I started doing that at a young age. It was a passion that was rooted in me. Didn't really start archery. My dad bought me a bow when I was about 10. Had a bad experience in that. So I was kind of negative towards archery. But then after deer hunting for a while, I started, rifle hunting. I went back to archery about, I guess it was probably first year out of high school. Absolutely loved archery. Couldn't get enough of it. And that was like in the late 80s. That brought me to, you trying to define as a young person where you're gonna, what are you gonna do for a living as far as like, a career or whatever. I couldn't really find my path, so I ended up going to HVAC school, got a 2-year degree in that, and I've never, ever worked in that field at all. By the time I got out of school, I was like, I don't want to do this for a living. I worked at Mercedes-Benz for 9 years, and I shot competitive archery while I was doing that. And I thought, while I'm young, while I'm, don't have any responsibilities or anything like that, I was like, man, I really want to do something in the outdoor industry. And I thought, well, now's the perfect time to try that. And the reason why the perfect time to try that is because you don't have many responsibilities and such. So while I was still living at home, I quit my job working downtown Atlanta for Mercedes-Benz, went to work at a local archery shop. I just couldn't get enough of archery, so I thought, man, this is the dream job. Even though I took about a $10,000 or $15,000 a year pay cut, I was like, I don't have to deal with the traffic going to Atlanta. I'm sitting here telling hunting stories, getting people ready for the woods, and ready for their tournaments and stuff like that. And it's been said 1,000 times, if you do something for a living that's your passion, you never feel like you worked a day in your life. So that led into opening my own shop in 94. I got lucky enough in 91 to win the world championship in 3D archery. I shot professionally all the way through the 90s. I met Michael Waddell, met the guys at Realtree, because I'm only 45 minutes from headquarters there. And I met those guys, started doing all their work on their bows and facilitating guests that they would have, back in the TNN days and the ESPN days, way back when, they'd have a lot of ball players on and country music singers, and would set those guys up so that they had a great experience in archery and bow hunting and such. And then, I started being a sidekick for Jeff Foxworthy around 99, 2000, doing some comedy stuff through the outdoor industry, as well as with Realtree. And then, me, Michael, and Nick became great friends through Realtree. And, me and Nick appeared on Realtree road trips throughout the 2000s, which was a television show. Well, it's still going, actually. Tyler hosts it now. And then we started in 2007. I sold my business, had it for 12 years. I sold my archery shop that I had, sold it, and then rolled right into, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I worked for the person that I sold it to for 2 years to transfer clientele. And then we started Bone Collector about the same time. And, thinking, well, this may last a year or two, and then, I'll be fletching arrows at some Gander Mountain or Cabela's or somewhere. And man, we've been truly blessed, and Bone Collectors has been going well since 2008. So I think we're in year 14 or 15 now. So truly been blessed, absolutely, throughout the whole career. You never know what door might open next, but when I started working at an archery shop in Dallas, Georgia, I never knew it would take me to this.
That's phenomenal. What a story and what a journey. So many things to talk about there. But, if we look back and let's just touch base on the archery. So it's funny, you got that bow at 10 from your father and weren't really into it. It was, of course, it was probably the bow itself that was a reflection of that. But, fast forward to, winning the, outdoor 3D worlds. How do you go from not even liking picking up your first bow to being a world champion? What's that transition like? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. To be honest, so my dad bought me a bow for getting good grades. Probably the last time I got good grades, to be honest with you. 10 years old, he bought me a bow for getting good grades. But my dad didn't know much about it. He bought me a 45-pound recurve, and for a 9 or a 10-year-old, that's pretty healthy, So I'm only bending the string 10 or 12 inches as a 10-year-old. So, I whack my arm a few times, and all I'm really doing is just watching the arrow fly. How we all, when we was kids, you shoot it up in the air and just watch it fly and run over and get it and shoot it again in a field. So I went through that for 3 or 4 months, and I'm like, man, I don't like this. I just can't pull a 45-pound bow. It's like I'm never going to do archery. Well, the transition from 10 years old to I played football all through middle school and high school, and I'm benching 300 pounds when I'm not saying I'm a Hulk or anything like that. I'm just saying I'm a big dude, so I ended up getting to where I could bench 300 pounds. And but still, in my mind, the transformation from a 10-year-old to an 18-year-old, you really gain a lot of strength and agility, and you're a young man now. But in my head, man, I couldn't pull 45 pounds. But yet I'm benching 300 pounds, and I'm a lineman for our high school and stuff. So the year out of high school, I was in a hunting club, and I was rifle hunting, and I was more into fishing throughout the spring and summer. And then we'd start, rifle hunting come late October. So, they start shooting their bows and stuff in June. All my buddies was, and I was like, oh man, I ain't doing that. And they said, come on, get a bow. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. You just end up wounding a bunch of deer, and it's hot, and you got to deal with all the, down here in the South, our season opens the first week of September, and you got to deal with bugs and the heat, and there's just so many excuses not to go. And I said, man, I ain't doing that. They said, well, we're not going to be fishing much anymore. So if I was going to hang out with my buddies, they said, come on, get a bow. So I said, okay. Went to the store on a Wednesday. I'm 18 or 19 years old. The guy, I go to buy this bow, and the whole time I got anxiety. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to pull this bow back. I can't pull this bow back. I'm buying a bow. I'm sitting here spending $400 or $500 on a bow setup that I'm not going to be able to pull. Excuse me, guys. So the guy said, all right, I need you to pull it back so I can set your peep sight. And what pounds do you want it on? It was an 80-pound bow. He backed it down. He said, 64 is about as low as I can go with it. I said, oh, leave it there. And I said, just tie the peep in where you think it needs to be. I wouldn't even pull it back in the store for fear of being embarrassed. So my buddies are over here the whole time I'm getting set up. They're talking to a guy that was in the store that ran the local archery range and set up tournaments. About it. If y'all are familiar with 3D tournaments, about once a month, these clubs have 3D tournaments. Well, the one in our county that we lived in was coming up that weekend. And I wasn't really paying attention. I was more anxiety, stress, and, chewing my fingernails about, oh my God, I'm going to have to try to pull this 64-pound bow in front of these guys. And all my buddies were shooting 75, 80 pounds, and they're half my size. And here I am worried about 64. So silly. So absolutely silly. The adolescent mind. Golly. But anyway, I was afraid of it. So I took the bow home. They've got this education about tournaments. They're thinking about doing tournaments. I go home and I'm like, I got to pull this bow sometime. I'm $450 short. I got to try to pull this bow. So I'm in my bedroom. I'm still living at home. I said, all right, here we go. I said, 1, 2, 3. And I about yanked the wheels off that thing. Absolutely about pulled it in two. And it was just instantaneous. It's just like, man, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do this. So the next day I went to my buddy's house and we shot, and they helped me get my bow sighted in. And, they knew a little bit, they never had been to tournaments or nothing like that, but they knew a little bit about getting me coached in. And luckily the peep sight was okay, I guess, tied in. So we shot Thursday, and I was loving it. Shot Friday. We're all dialed in. I had my 6 arrows. So Saturday comes, we shot all day, and my arms are like wet noodles, man, because we all had shot all day. And they said, you going to the tournament with us on Sunday? And I'm like, no, man, I just bought a bow on Wednesday. There's no way I'm going to a tournament. And they said, come on, we've never shot one either, and you're doing great. I'm like, okay. So we show up, and my idea of a tournament before, now granted, I'm 19 years old, and this is back in the early, late 80s. Probably you guys too. Like, I used to look into an encyclopedia, and you see like 100 people in white suits on a line getting ready to shoot down there. We got way more information now, but back in 1988, you look up archery tournament, you look in an encyclopedia because there was no internet, and I'm thinking like I'm gonna have to stand in line. I'm like, I ain't even got a white outfit. But it wasn't like that at all. 3D archery is just like a lot like golf. You get a group of your buddies, you sign up, you go through the woods, and you shoot 20, 25, 30 targets, and you score amongst yourself just like in golf. And then before you know it, you've had a great time. So I beat all my guys, all the guys in my group. We signed up for the novice division, which is the beginning division. We had a great time. I mean, absolute great time. And I was like, I cannot believe I beat all my buddies. Well, then we turned the scorecards in. There's like, 30-something people in that class. And it turned out I had the highest score of any beginner. So I went from scared to pull 64 pounds on a Wednesday to winning my first tournament in the beginners division. So I was like, man, I ain't never been good at nothing. I ain't good at football. The only thing I can do is float good in the water when I go in the swimming pool, and I can shoot a bow pretty decent. So I was off and running. I couldn't get enough of it. I killed my first deer that year. Every tournament that was ever within 150 miles of my house, me and my guys, my buddies, from that point on, every moment away from work, I was spending on archery, gaining more knowledge. I would run. You couldn't look up on YouTube. You can't do any of that. We'd get off work at 5 and we'd drive 45 minutes north to the local. It wasn't not local. It was the best archery shop around. So we went to it, and we'd get there 30 minutes before closing. We'd get there just so we could hang out for 30 minutes and then drive 45 minutes home, just so that we could be in that and maybe pick up some knowledge. And I was reading everything, Chuck Adams, Fred Bear, just anything I could get my hands on having to do with bow hunting or to archery. I just couldn't get enough of it. So that summer of 88 created a monster, and I just haven't looked back. I just absolutely love archery. Can't get enough of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so there's been a lot going on in your life, and as of late too, and so let's talk a little bit about, I guess, a little bit about your leg. I guess really, like, let's talk about what you've gone through in this last year and the evolution for you in your personal life, if you don't mind, Thibault.
Yeah, we all have speed bumps in our life, and we things are rocking along. So blessed, just living the dream. Work, doing our show, Bone Collector, Realtree road trips, working with Realtree, and I'm the national spokesperson for Whitetails Unlimited, and traveling around doing lots of appearances and such like that. Just an absolute blessing of a life, getting to hunt all over the place, and bought my first farm a couple years ago in Kansas. Things just going so well, and then and I'm not saying everybody has to deal with speed bumps and such, but in July I had a knot come up on my shin. It was about like a size of a grape, and I thought, no big deal. I'm like, it may go away. I had a hematoma from when I had fell there about 10 or 11 years ago. I was hunting in northern Wisconsin, and I fell in the snow, and I hit a stump, so it caused a hematoma. No blood clots, nothing break it or anything like that. They just said, hey, you're just going to have to deal with this little mound. It may take a while to go away. I had no idea that it would stay for 10 years or so, but right beside that is where that little bump popped up from the little grape-sized bump. So I'm thinking episode of Pimple Popper or something like that. It's might be a little cyst. We'll get a little white goo out of it, and we're good to go. So I was actually in the hospital for a tick bite in July on my other leg that got infected. And while I was in there, I asked them, I said, what about this bump? And they had the ultrasound out because they're checking for blood clots. And they said, well, it has its own blood supply. I do know that. Said you just pay attention to it and, keep an eye on it. So about a week and a half later, it doubled in size. So I went to my primary care, which I'm really good friends with, and he's a hunter. And I said, what about this, doc? I said, it's growing pretty big. And he goes, probably nothing, but we'll keep an eye on it. And so another week went by, and it grew quite a bit more. He said, yeah, it's pretty aggressive. He goes, let's get you to someone that's a little more specified in that. So it was another friend of ours, Dr. Majors. I went and seen him, and he said, yeah, we need to do a biopsy on it. First thing I want to do is I want to do a MRI. So we did an MRI, and he says, well, there's quite a bit of more of a mass intertwined within your leg. It's more than what we're just seeing above the skin. And, the whole time this thing is growing. I mean, it's nearly doubling in size every week. So, which is fast to me. I was like, golly. So we did a biopsy, and it squirted blood all over the place. He's like, man, it's got its own blood supply. It's really growing. I mean, it's aggressive. He sent it off thinking it wasn't much. We'd probably just end up cutting the cyst out, and that would be it. Took 7 or 8 days for it to come back. By the time it came back, it had already busted through my skin, and now it's on the outside growing because you don't have a lot of meat on your shin. It's not like there's a lot to give. So it busted out. It's growing out now, and he told me then, this was at the end of September, that it is cancer. It's fibrosarcoma, which is a rare type of cancer, only about 15,000 cases a year, usually in men over 50. And it's usually on your legs or your arms, or sometimes a lot of people get them on their neck, or, and dogs get them a lot, actually. So regardless, that was kind of a scary kind of deal. So, you hear the big C word. My wife and son were going on a trip that weekend, quick vacation trip that weekend to Philadelphia. So I found out the news on a Wednesday, kept it to myself. I'm like, I'm not going to ruin their vacation. There's nothing that they can do over the next 7 days, so I'll tell them when they get back. So I told my best friend, I had to have somebody to talk to about it. So I talked, he and I talked about it a lot, and I told my wife when she got back, and we started the plan of attack. So then we transferred over to Emory Winship Cancer Center in Atlanta. They're well-versed in sarcoma. We researched a lot of different cancer institutes, MD Anderson, which is in Houston, the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. I'm not saying that we research stuff out your guys' way, because it's just so far to travel, and at some point you gotta, it's the same type of treatment. So Winship Cancer Center in Atlanta was well versed in sarcoma treatment. So we went there, And they wanted to start immediately chemo treatment. And I'm thinking like, well, it's in my leg. And they said, well, it usually travels to your lung next. That's the way sarcoma works. So what we want to do is, rather than operating on your leg, if we don't get 100% of it out, then we're in bad trouble there. So we need to make sure that your body is clear of it. So they did scans, made sure I had one nodule in my lung, and which we're actually still staying on top of right now. I got one nodule in my lung. Don't know if it's cancer. We just got a nodule in the lung, and it's suspected that it is cancer. They won't know unless we do a biopsy. But we wanted to make sure the chemo treatment that we made sure that the body was clear before we either amputated my leg or operated on my leg. Well, it was obvious that it was growing so fast that there's no way that you could remove it effectively. If you don't remove 100% of it, it's coming back. That's just the way sarcoma is. It's coming back. So we did the chemo treatment, which was pretty rough and real aggressive. Most chemo treatments, I don't know if you guys, everybody's affected by cancer in some form or fashion, but most people who get cancer or chemo treatments, they go to an infusion center. You're there for 3 or 4 hours, and then you go home, and naturally you feel bad for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then you go for your next treatment. Mine was so aggressive, I didn't realize this, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because they put me in the treatment center, and I would be admitted for 5 days. They'd give me 2 types of chemo nonstop for 5 days, basically taking me to death's door. I wouldn't feel that till about the 3rd day I got home, and then like everything crashed. Red blood cells, white blood cells. I would get infections easy. Extremely easy. So I'd have to be readmitted like 3 days after I got out of the hospital for another 5 or 6 days to get my red blood cells back. I'd have to have platelet transfusions, red blood cells transfusions, and then they'd have to, give me nonstop antibiotics so that any infection I had, because, you can go septic real quick. So I did that, 3 or 4 routines all the way to the end of the year. They said, look, we're done with the chemo. Now we need to let you rest for 6 weeks so that the chemo's out of your body, and then we can amputate your leg. So that brings us to February 7th when I had my leg amputated. I will say this, I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but I went back 2 weeks ago. Well, I went back yesterday, but I'll tell you, about 2 weeks ago, they did a biopsy. I went back for a checkup. They did a biopsy on my leg, and the chemo treatment that we chose, because there's about 60 different types of sarcoma, the chemo treatment that they chose, they don't know how it's going to work. So they defined it. We know it's one of these 20 type of sarcomas, and this is the chemo treatment we're going to choose. When they chose it, they're not sure that if it's going to kill it totally, knock it back, or whatever. Well, when they did the pathology report on my leg, it had killed 99.3% of all of the
Wow.
Yeah. So when he told me that, I'm like, wait a minute, doc, you tell me that you killed all the cancer in my leg, but yet you still needed to cut my leg off. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, no, you still have that tumor that's intertwined, and we would have had it would have been a unbelievable. There's no way we could have got all of that out of there. It's just dead tissue. Then you run into circulation issues. Then you run into, bacteria and infections and stuff. He goes, we did the right thing. Regardless if it killed it or not killed it, we did the right thing. We feel like we got it. I said, okay. And then now I went back yesterday for a CAT scan, and I still have the nodule in my lung. And then we're going to a thoracic surgeon, and we're going to have to do a biopsy on the nodule in my lung. Or if you're going in there, it's only 5 to 7 millimeters. So it's a small nodule. He doesn't think that it is cancer. However, you can't turn a blind eye to it. So it's that small. If you're going in there for a biopsy, you're just going to remove the whole thing, pull it out, and then we'll determine what it was. Right. And then hopefully I should be, thinking positive, 100% cancer free then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing your Instagram where you told everybody. I was like, my heart dropped. I'm like, holy crap, I've followed this guy since like MySpace. It's like growing up with you kind of thing. But yeah, that's good news as it can be. Like that's encouraging. Yeah.
It's going to be a life change, because I'm just now finishing up my healing on my stump so that I can get a shrinker put on it to get myself a prosthetic, and hopefully things will go a lot smoother once that happens. Cause, it has been humbling, meaning like I've always had the positive mindset. Like when I went to rehab, I'm like, I went in there the first day. I know I'm getting long-winded, guys, but I went in there the rehab first day, and I'm like, I'm fixing a Rocky Balboa this, man. I'm going to turn this thing out. I'm going to show them, I'm a big guy, but I got positive attitudes, and I like to get after it. And they said, just, hey, pump the brakes a little bit, because, you're going at it real hard. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your positive attitude, but you got to save what you got. You blow a shoulder out because you're getting around on a walker, and or you're needing it for moving around, or you blow a knee out, then you're definitely no mobility. So you got to save what you got, but yet build up what you got too. So you got to be smart about what you're doing and trying. So I've actually fell a couple of times, trying to I tried to get into a truck, but it was all equipment related. It wasn't like but you still got to make sure that your equipment's right. Like I was getting up out of the wheelchair, and the wheelchair handle gave way about 4 inches. Didn't break, but it just gave way. And it was on my stump side, so there's nothing to catch, and I'm in a hallway. So down goes Fraser, man. I mean, a big thump. And then you're down there and you think, I'll just get right back up. Well, it without one leg, and then on a tile floor, it ain't that easy. So it's real humbling. So you got to make sure that, and then my wound busted open a little bit, and it started oozing. So that was about a 10-day setback. So you gotta play it safe, but you gotta play it smart.
Well, good on you, T-Bone, for your positivity, and I've been watching your journey a little bit too here, and just you are an inspiration, man, and just your positive attitude and can do, and the thing for me that I take away is that you're always smiling. Like there's never and so yeah, total inspiration. So like, how's that transition been? Like you get up in the morning, you talk about tree stands or a bow or archery or whitetails and now you're talking about sarcoma and all this crap. So how's that transition been? How have you found that? Is it and do you see? I guess you have some inspiration in the sense that you feel like you're really, really close to getting that green light, and then you can hustle on and get back to focusing on hunting. But how's that been for you and your family? This aspect of it?
Yeah, it's in some areas it's been easier than I thought, and in some areas it's hard. It's been real rough on my wife, but man, she's been an absolute saint through all this. And my son, he's 16, which most 16-year-olds can be pretty hard-headed, but he's autistic as well. So at first, when I was going through the chemo, it was really tough on him to see his dad beat down and lose his hair. My old hair's coming back pretty good now, but anyway, it was rough for him to see dad getting beat down, and really had to talk him through it. But now he's doing a lot better, so he's been a big help. I try to do as much as I can for myself, but sometimes they tell me, said I've always been independent and do for myself, but they said, man, if there's any time in your life that you need to reach out and ask somebody for help, but don't be afraid to do so. I've had just an unbelievable amount of support from friends. I got 3 or 4 good buddies that come over here. They built a ramp, put rails in my bathrooms, safety rails and stuff like that. So, and honestly, I from the outpouring on social media and stuff, I feel like I could do a post or pick up the phone and say, look, guys, we need to build a ramp from here down to my dock on my lake. And I promise you, I really feel like 1,000 people would show up and we'd have that thing knocked out in a day. And that's just a testament to, wow, man, I've got a lot of people that really care about me. I guess I've done something pretty good throughout my life. I've touched a lot of people, and I don't mean that arrogantly, but just appreciatively.
That's fantastic, and absolutely you have. So hats off to you. So if it's cool, we'll talk a little hunting now. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I'd like to, you've done so much and it's all documented. A lot of it's documented. Is there one hunt for you that stands out? Like, when you think back of all the memories you've created over the years, what stands out the most for you, T-Bone?
Man, it's really hard. I'm humbled about all the, just all the. Yeah, I never thought, like, when I was shooting the first tournament back then, I never thought I was like the ultimate dream, or my goal was like running an archery shop while I was running an archery shop and traveling around the country, shooting tournaments up till the early 2000s. I thought, man, you know what my dream would be if I could kill a 150-inch whitetail in the Midwest. That's it. I just never thought that a fat, flat-footed guy from Georgia is going to have that many opportunities. And then, through Realtree, and then of course, the Michael and the show and stuff. And I've far outlived my dream. It's so hard. We get asked that a lot, whenever we do in interviews or podcasts and stuff. And it's hard to narrow it down to one. I mean, like I killed a buck that was like 110 inches with my recurve here on my own property. It's pretty special. We didn't film it. It was years ago. That one was pretty special, just because, if you ever think you're awesome at archery and, with a compound bow, pick yourself up a recurve, which I love. I love if it has to do with flinging an arrow, I love it. But you pick yourself up a recurve and thinking that 23 yards is a mile.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's humbling. So, to do that, I know it sounds like, oh, well, it's a 110-inch buck with a recurve. I'm like, no. So I'm on farm, and I missed 8 or 9 does before I got that buck. So, no, that one meant a lot. My son, he doesn't hunt. He likes bird hunting. He likes duck hunting. So times I've spent with him in the waterfowl blind, those have been pretty special. Just to see him in dove fields, man, to watch him on a dove field. He's part bird dog. He don't like to shoot because of the noises and stuff, but he puts his headphones on. And if y'all have ever dove hunted, there's always a volley on the dove field, and you're always saying like, "Hey, Timmy, man, we got one coming over your head." Blah blah. He loves that volley. He loves the camaraderie, the big eating that we do before we, So those have been pretty special memories, and of course, hunts with my dad when I was younger. But in my career, I guess if you're asking, of the things that's been documented, the 2020 season was a pretty darn special season. I got to admit, I killed. It started off, I killed like 140-inch buck in Kentucky, and then stay with me. Don't get me wrong, because like we're expected to do that. We go to some pretty good places, you know what I mean. But then the next stop was my own farm in Kansas. I purchased it. So the pride factor goes up. You know how that is. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I made this sandwich in my own kitchen. Not, you know what I mean? I made that sandwich in my own kitchen. So, we had worked all summer long, all spring long. And this was my own farm. And I killed my biggest whitetail ever. It with a bow, it gross scored 183. Yeah, man.
Nice.
So I'm on cloud 9. I'm like, if I don't kill a cockroach the rest of the year, man, I great year. So then I come home and I had 2 good deer on camera right here at my house. I've got 90 acres right here at my house, which is not much, but for our area, it's pretty good, and I'm proud of it. I mean, because I built it up just by buying my neighbors' properties and stuff, and man, I had 2 phenomenal deer on camera, and I'm like, that they're all over the neighbors and everything like that. For me to even get a chance at one of these vampires down here in Georgia is a testament, because they're so nocturnal. I mean, it's very hard to get so then right after 2 weeks after I killed the one in Kansas, I killed my largest buck with a bow in Georgia, and he grossed 158 and netted 152. Ends up being the second biggest buck in the county. And then I had another deer that was on the trail cameras while I shot that deer. He's 350 yards away on a camera, the same time daylight. But where he was at was right on the property line, and there was no way, or close to the property line, and there was no way that I could get if I tried to put a bow stand in there, or, because I wanted to try to film it for our show. If I tried to put something in there, I would have blew him out, and that would have been the end of it. He was real sensitive. He was real comfortable right now, low pressure, and everything that the chest matched by placing, the food plots and the protein feeders and stuff that he's been on all year long, way up close to the house. Everybody's like, why are you putting your feeders so close to the house? I'm like, they're going to be eating them at night anyway. I want them to eat them at night while I'm in the bed. That way they're used to traveling my property all the time. So he was dragging himself through the property, and he was comfortable daylight on another piece of my property. So I was going to intercept him on his way to the protein feeder that he's so used to. So I had the foresight. I took my skid steer and I put 3 big root balls. You know how when a tree falls over and the root balls, we cut the tree up and left the root balls, and I built a blind out of root balls, put a blind behind it. I did this in August thinking I'm going to go ahead and put it here now so that he's used to it. If I need to shoot with a muzzleloader or a rifle, I can do so. It'll be set up. It won't be like something like, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to get him with a bow. So I'm glad I, planned way, 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 way ahead. So muzzleloader's coming up. The first day the wind was wrong, so I didn't hunt him, but he was there. He came an hour before dark, and the wind changed everything. It wasn't raining the next day, so we went in there the next day and I got him. Anyway, he gross scored 186 for Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A 186 non-typical, and he turns out, I had no idea, but he's the number 2 muzzleloader kill in the whole entire state of Georgia forever, not just last year. Forever. So,
congratulations, man.
Yeah. So I was done. So, that was a pretty special year, and it just so happened all of those was on my own ground, homegrown, not like, not that there's anything wrong with hunting with an outfitter, because we all have to do that from time to time. And, you're relying on their skill set, but yeah, those were all self-done, and everything. So it added to the pride factor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and the genetics, knowing those genetics are on your farm, that's phenomenal. That's gonna, properly manage what you will. That's gonna elicit amazing harvest for years. That's incredible.
Yeah. I've been here for 20 something years. The first year I had this place. No, I've been here since '99. So the first year I had the small piece. I only had 27 acres I started with. I killed a buck, a 9-pointer that scored 152, which was a good deer. But since then, I've only taken like 2 bucks over 20 years. And there's so many, there just hasn't been anything until 2020. And then those 2 were huge. And then everybody, naturally all the local guys are asking me like, what you got this year, man? What you got this year? And I'm like, hey guys, back to reality. That was just a one-time deal. That was just a one moment in time. I said, it's back to, 120-inch 8-pointers now.
I just did a quick Google of it. Holy crap. What a monster. Yeah. Holy.
That's very cool. So, okay. So we talked a little bit about some of your accomplishments, and those are some freaking accomplishments. 180 inch class whitetails are phenomenal. That's the stuff we all dream about. So what does the future hold? So, I guess a lot of it now there's the learning aspect with your prosthetic and tree stand hunting and what that looks like. But what's kind of on the radar coming up for you? What do you have looking forward for you in the short term, I guess? Yeah,
right now just healing. Basically doing a little better each day, trying to keep a positive attitude, because it's real easy, to get down in the dumps, poke your lip out, and like, woe is me, and I'm so proud of myself. I guess I am tooting my own horn right now to stay grounded in this. A lot of people would be pounding their head on a tree like, man, I don't get to hunt anywhere, and they're like, my life is over. And I'm not wired that way. I'm like, man, like I told you guys, if I don't get to hunt again, I've already far outlived my dreams. However, I still want to aspire to do, I still can shoot a bow. I know that between hunting and blinds, and I would like to think that I could definitely, I would like to think that maybe I could climb a ladder stand in the future, or definitely get into, like elevated blinds, like the redneck blinds that are so popular, and for sure can do ground blinds. I know that's going to happen. So, hunting, I think, it's going to be a little different, and may need a little help, but it's certainly going to happen. Still got my farm in Kansas, and we've got places here, and I'm sure there's places that are accommodating. I'm not the only person that's ever hunted that is missing a leg, but you talk about conservation and stuff. Just switching gears to you, I'm going to always work on a bow. I've already been down in my archery bow dojo down there. I got a shop in my basement, and I'm always looking for a better mousetrap, tuning on bows, working on bows. So that's not going to change. That's still going to be the same. I can still get down there and do that, no problem. But on the conservation, the one thing I'm focused on, and this may seem so silly, is I bought a skid steer about 4 or 5 years ago for doing stuff, and then I've got a tractor, and my main focus is I love doing things on that skid steer, land improvement, just trimming limbs, bush hogging. My goal is to be able to get in that skid steer as well as the tractor. That's my biggest thing, is like I just love the whole aspect, or the whole everything to do with just like I told you about those deer. It may seem like, yeah, you got lucky and you went out there and hunting those deer, but I think that we put plans in motion 6, 8, 10 months in advance for that right opportunity. So it was well preparation, and I get just as much out of all of the management stuff as I do the actual hunt. So many folks are focused on the hunt, and I get it. Most people are blue collar workers, and they don't get that much time to do those things, and they want to focus on the hunt, and that's the way it should be, absolutely. But fortunately for me, I got the time, and I want to be able to do those management things, food plots, and do anything that I can within the tractor and skid steer. So that's my number one focus, is getting some diesel therapy.
That's awesome. Well, it's funny you talk about the preparation and 8 to 10 months. This has been 20 years. You bought that property 20 years ago. You've been working to that point for 20 years, and I can imagine how rewarding that would be, knowing that you put that time, effort, and into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody can, you buy your first bow, you're proud of that bow. You take care of that bow. It's like, this is my bow. I didn't borrow this bow. This is my bow. Everybody, it's like, this is my house. When you buy something, you have ownership in it. There's no better reward than to, it's like, you know what? I cleaned my gutters this weekend. I cut my grass. There's something to be said for that. I just bought my truck. Yep.
Yeah.
Except for when you're going like, I got another payment to write out. That ain't no
Yeah.
Well, and again, that's what makes it so bloody special too, right? It's that sweat equity that you put into it, and to make it work, and where it's really rewarding in the end. So yeah, good on you. Okay, so we talked about killing them. Let's talk about eating them. I see your Traeger back there. What's your favorite Traeger recipe?
Oh man, I got a good one for you. It's a deer cube steak. Of course, you can use any type of meat, but deer cube steak. It's not just a standard. I don't know what we call them, but I'll try to paint a picture for you pretty good. So you take cube steak and you marinate it in Italian dressing.
Okay.
And then you take mushrooms, onions, and green peppers, almost like a fajita mix, and you saute all those up. And we call that the gubbins. You get the gubbins going, you get all that going, and then what you do is you take and stuff that you take a piece of the cube steak. My mouth's watering talking about it, man.
Mine too.
So you take the cube steak and you put the gubbins in the center, and then you take cream cheese, like a tablespoon or a teaspoon of cream cheese, put it in there, roll it up, and then peg it, and then wrap it in bacon.
Oh.
Throw it on the Traeger, and when the I forget the temperature, I want to say 350, but when the bacon gets crispy, everything's done. And you talk about, oh man, and these things probably makes 3 times as many as we need to for a meal, because they're even better like the second, third day when you warm them back up.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, I don't want warmed up food. No, we put them in an aluminum pan, put them in the refrigerator, and then you can just warm them back up, and then all that sauce and goodness just gets up. Oh man, that's my favorite. But there's 1,000 of them that are great.
Well, I know it's a good one because you didn't even hesitate the second. Like it wasn't let a lot of people do. It was just bang off the top of your head. So
that's exactly right.
That's definitely one I got to put down. I got to get a Traeger now, Kyle. Kyle's got one. I don't yet.
I'm going to get your recipe, and I'm going to cook that up, T-Bone. So
to me, a Traeger is a smoker. They call them grills. They're really a smoker, in my opinion. And I'm not sponsored by Traeger or anything like that. I've got one for that, slow cooking. But I prefer cooking on a griddle, like Camp Chefs or the Blackstones. And, like I know you guys don't have Waffle House, but, like you go to a Waffle House and you grill up some, they're open 24 hours, 7 days a week. But anyway, the griddle in there, man, you can just cook so much stuff on there. I like a griddle pretty good.
Yeah, I love flat top cooking. There's something
Yep.
about it where you just put everything together and it's all mixed at the end. It's
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go to the Awful Waffle. I've heard about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's a must do. If you're in the Southeast, you got to go.
Yeah, I can attest. I've had a few nights at. It's always good to go there late night when nothing else is open. So yeah, it's awesome. So T-Bone, let's. I want to just segue a little bit. My wife's been bugging me about grabbing a bow. She wants to start getting into archery. I know you've owned the bow shop before, an archery shop. So what should I be looking at to set her up? She's never shot before, never picked up maybe plinked with a 22, doesn't know anything about it. Where do I get started on something like that?
Yeah, try to research and find a reputable archery shop in your area. They're going to be a wealth, nothing against a mass merchant, like a Cabela's, a Bass Pro Shop. They got the equipment. However, if you're not well versed in it, it's a tailor. You need to be tailor fit with the archery equipment. It's like so many people find good deals online, or on eBay or whatever, and they think, oh man, I've got a good bow, and then it's like buying a pair of pants that are, my size. You guys are a lot smaller than I am. Yeah, you got a good deal on a pair of pants and they're covering your butt, but to say they fit you, no, they don't. Groot!
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog's running after the Amazon delivery guy.
Yeah, I feel that one. I picked up my first bow probably 15 years ago, and I got, all good. I got a Diamond Razor's Edge, one of the ones that's got the adjustable draw length, and I set it to what I thought was right. And it torqued and it twisted. Then I went to old guy just south of town, about 30 minutes, got his own little shop in the back of his garage. And he said it to me, and it was like night and day. It was like, holy crap, you learn in spline length and spline, and you're setting your anchor, and there is a lot to learn about it. And I got the wife into it too. So she loves it. We got a couple of 3D targets and boxes in the backyard. Our yard is about 60 yards long, so we can get a good shot from the carport to the back fence. But you nailed it. I've been in.
What I was going to say is to add. I'm sorry, but to add to that, I was going to say, getting her set up or what have you. You need to, reputable bow shop. I wasn't going to end just there, but make sure that she's not pulling too much weight. Start her easy. You want her to be able to shoot 60 good shots. Even though she may not shoot 60 shots, you don't want her wore out after she shot 40 shots a day. And then draw length is key. Having the correct draw length is so, too long a draw length, and he won't too long a draw length, and he won't. She's going to hit her arm. She's going to have a bad experience with it.
Yep.
Guys, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Groot,
Go
get
ahead.
here. Groot!
This is what.
Here I got a leg. How am I going to run after it?
Oh yeah,
Groot, get up here.
Groot. I love that.
Yeah, here's the thing: is come on, Groot, come on, get up here. He's totally fine. Come here, Groot. Groot is a half pit bull, half boxer.
Oh,
I'm absolutely the nicest dog you've ever. Just wants to greet you at Groot. And then the Amazon driver is this lady is scared to death. I mean, he looks like, have you seen it running towards the car? You're like, I got him by the collar. Oh, she said she's not scared of dogs.
Good.
I'm in the middle of a podcast, ma'am, so that's all right. Just put it right there at the door. He's just so friendly. He just awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, that's awesome.
You had that happen on a podcast, have you guys?
No, but we actually have had people try and break into a ping pong game.
Is that right?
Outside of somebody's office. Yeah. So that's great. I talk about that slap in the arm. Oh, I figured that out. Oh, it sucks.
And just too long a draw, you end up hitting your arm, and that big time. Kind of like me when I had 45 pounds. When it's a bad experience, so therefore, they're not going to want to do it anymore. And then another thing with ladies, too long a draw length is they're some can be voluptuous or whatever. So you don't want them to hook a boob, so to speak. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that their draw length is proper so that they're not on their chest or on the side of their chest and hitting their arm and stuff like that. So I would always kind of lean towards too short. I'd rather someone be a half inch too short a draw as too long a draw, because it's a bad experience. And then, make sure that their head is correct and their peep sight is correct. And you got to get the arrow span right and then make sure that it's tuned right. And then don't let them shoot, like if they're only pulling 30 pounds, that's fine. You're getting your feet wet. Let them stand there at 10 yards. Let them stand there at 15 yards, 20 yards. And just, for weeks and months, just like building confidence. If you can hit, if they get to where they're hitting a tennis ball every time at 20 yards, you know how good that's going to feel inside to them? We're used to seeing all these folks shooting at 160 yards and like, I can't do that. I'm not. That's ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like shooting at long distance and stuff like that, but that's the only thing we see on the internet anymore.
Yeah.
Realistically, we're never going to shoot at a critter usually past 35 yards. But yet for some reason, we're so focused on, I'm going to try to kill a deer at 80 yards or 90 yards. That's ridiculous. That ain't, I feel like I got the skills to do that, but I don't never want to shoot at a deer past 30 yards. Something you guys can appreciate. Some of I'm going down a rabbit hole now here, so
love it.
Yeah, but if you look at the Pope and Young records for a whitetail deer, what would you think the average distance of most Pope and Youngs are killed at?
I'd hope 25 to 35.
Yeah, 17 yards.
Wow.
Wow.
The average distance Pope and Youngs are killed are at 17 yards, and here we are focused on. Man, he may step out at 64.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a when the critter steps out at 64 yards, it's not about can I shoot 64 yards? Yeah, I get that. That deer can turn around and go the opposite way, and you cut an arrow loose at 64. He hears the bow for some reason, or something's not just right, and he's real tense. He's going to turn around and go the other way. I'm not saying you can't kill one at that far, but the odds and the laws of average really are against you of getting a good shot in that thing. I want people to practice at long distance, and I want them to be that way because it builds confidence for the shots that they're going to take that are 40 yards and less. But the only reason you should be practicing that far, having those pins, is basically for a second follow-up shot so that you humanely kill that deer, put that deer down, or he runs out there and you shot him through the guts because you made a bad shot at 32 yards and he's out there at 75 just kind of wobbling around. Man, they make arrows while we sleep. Put another arrow in him. Do your best to humanely put him down so that he's not lost, he's not on the neighbors, and we recover that deer. So many people, don't look at it that way. So we owe it to the animal to respectfully do that. But yeah, I thought that was a cool number.
Mm-hmm.
17.3, 17 something.
Wow.
The average distance that a Pope and Young whitetail's killed. So
yeah, I've taken a couple of bears with my bow, and I think the longest shot was about 35 yards, and it's crazy how far away that looks through a peep sight. It's not like a rifle where it's 100 yards. Okay, that's easy. But yeah, you get 30, 35, 40 yards from a bear. Or I've never drawn on a deer, but the bear looked so far away. It was like, okay, I know I'm good to 50. This is 35. I can do it. And I did, but it's nuts how far away 35 yards looks through a peep.
You're exactly right, because you instantly know when you're in the moment, that deer could, that bear, deer, whatever it is, take a step to get another acorn, move one leg forward, or, flinch, even if it doesn't hear the noise of the bow or the arrow coming down on it, it can move just a little bit, and it don't take much if you're, aiming at an 8 or 9 inch plate of vitals. It don't take much to get back into the gut. So
no, I've seen some videos on YouTube of people shooting at whitetail, and they jump the string or they pancake themselves. It's like crazy how fast they react.
You can't. People try to get a faster bow to outrun them, but the real thing is to a quieter bow is way more important than a faster bow.
Right.
Another thing I was going to let you guys know, you was asking about your wife, something that adds excitement to that is like if you're shooting at 15 or 20 yards or whatever, blow up some balloons, because it works great for kids, but even a new beginning archer, there's something about just instant gratification of popping a balloon. It's like, pow, man, we we got the balloon popped, and it helps with confidence and instant gratification.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I appreciate that, and I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how that all goes. So looking forward to it. Okay, so last thing I just want to touch on before we wrap up here, T-Bone, is let's talk a little bit about not so much your management conservation efforts that you're doing on your plots and stuff like that, which is important work too. Can you touch a little bit about your work that the conservation organizations you support? So Whitetails Unlimited, I think you did some work with the National Wild Turkey Federation, but let's talk a little bit about that and the work that you're doing with them.
Sure. There's a lot of great conservation groups out there, and we should all support all of them, whether it's the Sheep Foundation, Mule Deer Foundation, and I support all of them. NRA. The cool thing about it is we know that they are, it's more than just like the conservation efforts. It's the conservation efforts as far as the sustainability of the species, and so that they thrive in certain areas. We support the local biologists and the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, for your areas, and the biologists, to where we keep those numbers in check, and they thrive. But I can speak. I mean, all of these groups feel the same way. I feel like Ducks Unlimited, whatever, but I can speak from Whitetails Unlimited. They're the oldest and they're the largest whitetail conservation group in the country. And it's more than just, the whitetail conservation efforts. It's the hunting heritage and our Second Amendment rights. And those are all three things that I think that every conservation group should, definitely put efforts towards, because you can conserve the species all you want, but, if our hunting rights are taken away, and you see it it's more and more, where they're trying to ban trail cameras in some of the states out west. I can't hardly believe that, but we put regulations up, and that should dictate it. No matter how you kill it, whether it's with a 50 cal or with a slingshot, it doesn't really matter if you have certain numbers. So I get that. But the Second Amendment rights, we want to make sure that we preserve our Second Amendment rights, because once you cave or give an inch, then it's gonna be the downfall. And I think we as hunters are all on the conservative side, or pretty much. I would like to think so. Anyway, most all are on the conservative side. So we need to protect those. That's our heritage. I mean, when I say hunting heritage, I mean hunting heritage. It's a way for us to provide for our family. We're all hunters. I talk to a lot of people that are non-hunters when you're on planes and you're traveling, and when you're, at some of these things to shine a light on it. We're all hunters. It's just society has made it easier. Instead of having to hunt for our food every day, our wife shops for the best deal on a pack of steaks at the grocery store. So that we're hunting. It's just we're not, packing up with a musket every day and going out and trying to kill 2 squirrels so that we got something to eat. We still do that as conservationists and hunters. We do still provide for our family and stuff like that, but through convenience and society, and just, it's kind of taken that away. But, if things break crappy, and, you don't think that they ever will, but they might, it sure is nice to know that we have that skill set to provide for our family, and that we are, top of the food chain as far as that goes. So we do need to protect those. It may seem trivial. It's like, well, I ain't really for pistols or nothing. I'm like, look, if they take anything from you, it's just a matter of time before they take all from you. So that's the good thing about these conservation groups. And I will say this about Whitetails Unlimited: 50% of all the net dollars raised with Whitetails Unlimited at each chapter stays with that chapter. So, a lot of conservation groups, and they're all doing good, but sometimes they'll take 80% of the proceeds and do something with it somewhere else. Whereas this group of people are working hard. The blue collar worker is going to these events, and they like to see works. It's a little different with whitetails because they're so widespread. It's all over the country. But it's nice to know that if you're wanting to start a gun range in your area, and you're trying to raise money for that, or you got a youth program where you're taking veterans hunter or youth hunters or disabled hunters, and you're raising money in the local areas, 50% of those net dollars stay right there for your program. So that's sure is nice to know that when you're out, when the groups are out there pounding the pavement trying to raise money, that they're doing it not just for going back to headquarters and then the money being spent on some program, 2 states away, if that makes sense. Not that it's not good. Sure does make you have a little better incentive knowing that 50% of that is going right there to the grassroots of your area. So I know a lot of the other conservation groups do a lot of the same things. It's a little different with the sheep foundation, I know, because sheep ain't found everywhere. They're a niche area, so we do have to pile more money to where they are and do the right things. But as a whole, we don't need to lose sight of protecting our hunting heritage and our Second Amendment rights, because that is the core, the nucleus, and all things are from that. And then another good group that I'm seeing a lot of is Hunters Nation. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but Ted Nugent does something with that. If you'll Google Hunters Nation, Heath Marks, and they're doing a lot of good things as far as protecting our Second Amendment right, because they're right there at the core of it in DC. I always want to ask you guys, where are you two guys from? I mean, like where am I talking to you at?
We're both from
I'm up in
British Columbia.
Okay. We're up in BC,
yeah.
So we're speaking the same language. It's a little different in Canada, but and so T-Bone, I wanted to touch on that. And you talk about hunter heritage and about how important it is, and about taking one thing away. And everyone's like, see a lot of this kind of floating around where people are like, whatever. It's not what they do, so they're not so worried about protecting it, right? And
yeah.
I think you brought up a good point, and I agree with you. I think it's a slippery slope. You take one little piece of the thing, and it's a trickle effect, and then all of a sudden they come for your thing, and you didn't stand up for my thing. And I think as a community, we really have to put it front of mind that we have to stand up for all this stuff. If it's something we can get behind collectively, we should all be getting behind it. And yeah, just because you don't own a pistol, or you don't own a muzzleloader, or you don't hunt sheep, or you don't hunt goats or turkey, that you shouldn't defend that. I think we all need to, we need to. There's enough people that want to take it all away that we have to start with the small stuff. So. Yeah,
it seems like you think hunters, and you talk about who's a hunter, and you get the number of millions, and you think like, well, that's a big group. Honestly, and if you quadrant that out, sheep hunters, or people are more so for sheep or more so for mule deer. I can't relate to a whitetail hunter because I'm out in the West, and turkey hunters and such like that. At the end of the day, we're under the same umbrella, and we all need to. It may seem big, but actually it can be small. And we all know this. We've seen this trend in this day and age. It's not like when, and I'm classifying you guys as in my age group or our age group, we grew up hunting and fishing, and we didn't have the distractions that the kids have today with electronics. And, hunting is not as fast paced as some of the stuff that you can see on TV, or, my son does not even watch a television program anymore. He can't sit through a movie because, and a lot of kids are this way, because it's not fast enough. They like to live life 3 minutes at a time, 3 minute clip, 3 minute clip, 3 minute clip. And I see that, and we're not going to fight it, or we're not going to win against it. It's technology so big, but that needs to be thought about for our hunting heritage, because, when I was bored, when I was a kid, I'd get a stick and a pine cone, and that's how I stayed busy there for an hour or two. Or, you go find, I didn't want to come in. If it was daylight, I was outside. Whereas kids aren't that way anymore. You do have team sports and stuff like that, but it can be rough. I mean, for the high percentage of kids that are interested in hunting, we're not seeing those numbers anymore. So we got to make sure that we include them, so that for generations to come, because, internet's only been around 20 years, which is not that long. So we are in changing times, guys. I mean, not much is different from, like, say, 1995 to 65. Not much different. Yeah, there is some advancements, but still had a TV, still had a car, still go hunting, still, I can remember going to high school with a gun in my back window. But things have changed a bunch in the last 20 years, and, judging from what I see, they're going to change a bunch more in the next 20 years. So we all need to make sure more than ever to support these groups and or make sure you dig your heels in for our rights as Second Amendment. Well, I say Second Amendment, I'm talking to British Columbia, but the right to bear arms, let's put it that way. So for those that don't know what the Second Amendment right is for the United States, it is the right to bear arms. So, meaning like to have your guns. So we need to stand up for that. We need to stand for the hunting heritage, because otherwise it's just a matter of time, and, slowly but surely they'll start whittling away. And then once it's gone, it's hard to get it back, or dang near impossible.
Yeah, well said, T-Bone. That's that's a great point, and I think that's something we can end on and take away with us. If we're gonna take away anything from this, is we really need to keep that front of mind, and we're seeing that here in BC. I think we're much worse in Canada than you guys are down there. You guys have done a pretty good job of standing up for your Second Amendment rights and your hunter heritage, and in BC and Canada, we're struggling a bit there, and we got to do a better job. So. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I guess kind of just to wrap it up, if people want to watch and they want to learn and get involved with what you're doing, how do they see you? Where do they go and watch? Do you want to give a little rundown on where they can see you at?
Sure. Bone Collector is the name of our show. Been in existence since 2008. You can watch it on the Outdoor Channel. It's on 3 or 4 times a week. Just go to Outdoor Channel or Bone Collector to see the times. We run 26 new episodes a year. We're on every week of the year, and then also on Realtree road trips. Of course, if you like to stream stuff, you can find it on. We have a YouTube channel as well as My Outdoor TV, which is an app that you get through Outdoor Channel, and you can watch you can watch hunting shows till you're definitely gray-headed, trust me. And then, through social media, you can follow myself at T-Bone Outdoors on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And then, of course, bonecollector.com and Bone Collector on the Instagram and stuff. You can find us there too. So, I don't know how many fans I have or we have from British Columbia, but man, if you go out there and you're hunting and an outdoorsman, man, we're supportive of that, and we appreciate y'all's support in return. So thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, we appreciate it too, Travis. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you get back on your feet, so to speak, and getting back out in the field and doing what you love, and just following that journey. And maybe maybe 6 months down the road or a year down the road, let's touch base again. Let's get on here and let's talk about your current season, what you're doing, and see where you're at. But we sure appreciate you. We're all pulling for you with all your treatments, and we're really, I just love to. I'm looking at you now. You're smiling at us. I love that. Yeah. So thank you.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate all the support, and it just got to be steady. And right now, I just got to remember to be patient and just heal slowly, heal smart, and then we'll be there before you know it.
Absolutely.